Ha 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 ha.
Hez in Australia.
No, the funny thing is that the other day I heard you talking on a podcast there, the TC.
You had a TC. Oh, yeah. I talked about TC, man.
My wife died laughing, man.
We laughed a lot that day. The intention was good. But let's go, man. We just arrived. We're fresh. We just did the test now. Yesterday had already taken one of those guitars, which one is Renato Rocha's from Detonautas.
Blue one here.
This blue one is Renato Rocha's.
He went to see the lights to choose, right? Which one he was going to.
He picked the little blue one, right? Renato. A big hug, Renato. A big hug. And also there, you had already done the test, right? Also compared and everything, put one on top of the other and had already had the same opinion as us, right? That's right. So, guys, our verdict, you will be able to see. They call me to put. I think we could already put it on now for everyone to listen and automatically pass it here and come back. So, look, just listen to the test there and come back with us here so we can discuss it together. So let's go. What happens? Guys, let's explain here. You built this guitar. Explain what's in the guitars. What's different about them, okay? Hold one while I hold the other so people can see it here too. You can... Yeah, that's it. Good. Let's get as close as I can. Let's talk first, then we'll better explain the specifics of the guitar, but just to talk about the test itself. What did you do differently to take something into consideration? In the final sound, right?
What do you mean?
It was the body wood.
Ah, yes. So as I asked you there, what we did differently with the guitars, okay? Well, what happened here is the following. We used all the components of the guitar the same, right? For both one and the other. Pickups. Sergio Rosar, pickup, which we used here, see, right? Excellent pickup, top quality. We used the...
Two humbuckers, right?
Two humbuckers, exactly. There's a split here, right? All right. Bridge, tuning pegs. Bridge, we used Wilson. Tuning pegs, Geiger. Electronics, Osh Alpha. The potentiometers, right?
All the same.
It's the same, right?
Nothing changed.
A500, right? 500K.
And why? This one, it's black and white, and the other one is black and white.
It's more about aesthetics. I wanted to do something different regarding the aesthetics of the two guitars.
So it changed. You changed. Let's put it here. What is the body wood?
Right, body wood. It's from this green one, it's Araucaria. And this one here is Marupa.
This one is Marupa. Two Brazilian woods.
You've already felt a little, I don't know if you noticed, but the weight of the two is a bit different.
Is it about 500 grams?
Yeah. Around that, yes. Around that part.
All right, great.
Or even a little less, that kick.
So let's go.
The issue of the woods, right? Of the body.
Marupa.
Oh, Araucaria. The neck of this guitar, this green one. Look for you. It's a spouted ivory.
Okay, ivory.
And this one here is a grappia, right? Grappia, right? As it's also called.
And here on the upper part,
And the fretboard part.
fretboard.
That one we used Macacoba. On this green one. And on this blue one we used rosewood. Okay. So I summarize. Marupa on the body, Araucaria on the body. Arm, grappia. Spotted ivory and rosewood. And Macacauba, rosewood on the fretboard and Macacauba on the left. Another detail I wanted to emphasize regarding the frets.
Both, same frets as well.
Stainless steel fret. Same fret as the DHP 27 and 27. Nutty of that also, mostly of both guitars. Anyway, all the components of the guitar are exactly the same. The values, right? The guitar's measurements, pickup distance, the height as well, everything, the setup. I did it to the same standard, checked before bringing it for testing. So, the guitars are identical in terms of the components. And what is different about the guitars is just the woods, including both, are also bolt-on.
Yes, they are used. Everything is in order. So let's go, man. There was a point I asked you to point out as well. The block and the saddles are the same.
Yes, the block, the big block on both guitars, and the saddles. The saddles are stainless steel. They are made of steel.
I want to talk about the guitars themselves, about the construction. They are instruments, man. Honestly, I played both. I really did. It wasn't just a test. I didn't like it. The guitars, man, are a delight to play.
0-10.
Yes, the 08, that you know, right, man? And even so, the AC is a very good guitar to play, playability, despite being 0. Yes, the AC is a very smooth guitar. Wow, great sound. You brought the guitar here, man, in tune. It didn't even go out of tune during the trip. Yeah, I made a trip. You can see that it is also a beautiful guitar. And man, he will tell you everything properly later, because there is, in fact, for those who are interested in ordering, he will talk about prices and everything else. So starting from the principle that those who believe the influence of wood is a robust thing, there would be 3 factors here related to the wood that would influence which is the wood of the body, the neck, and there's also the wood of the fretboard.
It's interesting, Mateus. It's like when we were talking, you sometimes said, what if we make just the neck, right? Because it's where people say the neck makes a difference and all. I have thought about actually making 2 guitars with completely distinct, different woods, body, neck, fretboard, because I want to see if we want to show if it will really make a big difference in the sound, in the tone of the instrument. Anyway, we did the test, right?
So it was funny because when I picked up the guitar, for example, I picked up this pickup here. And I said, let me play with the other one before doing the test. And when I plugged in the other one, I said, wow, man, but I didn't hear any difference. I said, now let's do a test by putting one on top of the other. Let's see if we notice a difference. So folks, what's the conclusion without wanting to drag it out? There is a difference in sound between one guitar and another. You will have it. But man, look at the amount of wood change for a very tiny difference.
Exactly. That's what we use the wood. You can even feel it in relation to the density of each one. You see that this guitar is a little heavier. And the difference it makes is imperceptible. We did the test here, but I had already done the test with Renato, who hadn't mentioned it. He tested it and said, Tony, man, it's imperceptible. It's the same sound, you know? So, there you have it. The test was done.
So it's something that it's a conclusion that it's a test. We're not scientific here. There's no point in doing a scientific test either, because those who don't want to accept it won't accept anything, right? Yes, exactly. And then there's something funny that a guy commented here, and I said, man, he commented like this: you were even convincing me that the influence of the wood on guitars was small, but I saw a comment and I thought he was saying, when I did the test, I tested it. When I saw Guthrie Govan saying it was different. In other words, the guy keeps changing his mind according to what someone says and what he hears around. I did the test. Now I can give my opinion. Because we did a test following standards. Even though it's not a scientific test, we use standards. What is a scientific test? It follows a standard, a step-by-step process. So we, in a way, use the standard and only change the variables.
And here, I can say I checked the measurements of the guitar completely. I know all its measurements, everything. both the neck thickness, the nut there at the heel, body thickness. So like it was really a construction that I made special here for us to do this test, you know?
And what I found, which is cool here, man, for the guitar to have a construction very similar. The playability of the guitar almost didn't change.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you keep the same parts and everything, and they are two guitars with different construction, you will play differently. That's what happens a lot. A guitar comes in a series, right? Like, I don't know, a Fender, for example. Then you play one from the same series, you play another, and it sounds different. What's the explanation? If all the parts are the same? Because it's a different construction. Exactly.
Even, for example, I make the construction of my guitars. It's all handmade, really. I do it by hand, and what happens is we try to get as close as possible in terms of shape, right? Of the neck and such. As close as possible for it. I try to get as close as possible, but it never ends up identical, right? And that's one of the characteristics I like about my guitars, always making something truly exclusive, right? Even though the guitar itself has the same tone, it's the same sound. So there's no glaring difference. However, when you pick one up and then pick it up again, you find yourself more with the feel of the instrument. It's a minimal difference, but in the musician's hand, aesthetically, it influences your preference.
There are other things too. For example, I talked about two identical guitars, why sometimes the pickup height is different. It will remain identical, but at the time, they're at the guy's place who does a basic setup of the guitars, because when packing and shipping, a basic setup is done. Sometimes when it arrives at the supply, but one guy might leave one with a higher pickup than the other. Sometimes in the setup itself, one has lower tension than the other. Exactly. And that already changes the way the person plays. They will perceive that the guitar's sound is different just because of that.
Just because of that, exactly. This happens a lot. It's difficult to, for example, take an instrument from the store and compare it with the instrument, the same model, and compare it with the instrument that has already been set up. Yes, it will produce a completely different sound because an instrument that comes from the store, it was made. It's set up, it's factory made, right? When it goes through a luthier, it's a different story.
Yes.
And then it will depend a lot. Also, the same model, who set it up? It was so and so. Then they set it up for such musician. Then the other instrument was set up by someone else for a different musician who has a different taste. So, if you want to compare the guitar sound with different setups, it makes a big difference. I mean, right? In the sound of the instrument, in the feel of the instrument. That's why there's this thing that people sometimes picks up an instrument of one model, then when they get it from someone else, you say, wow, but it's another feel. Sometimes they test, right? Several guitars of the same model, but there's one they like more. Yes, because it will have something in the setup. They're different. So you have to consider all of this, right? There are many things to consider.
So, man, like having reached our verdict, we're here as the owners of the truth, right? What I recommend to you, grab two guitars and suddenly get in touch with Tony. Although it will be difficult to put these two guitars together again, right? Because this one will stay. One will stay with Renato from Detonautas, man. But Renato also had the same impression as us. So, like, don't just base it on what one says, the other says, okay? You have to come, man, and do a test that follows some standards. Exactly. And although, as I told you, maybe our test would be rejected in an academic setting, you didn't follow the criteria and such, but we tried as much as possible to use criteria that were within our reach here. Because the test at the University of... I always forget, it's Paraná, right? Paraná, the little robot played. And the little robot is more reliable because when I play one guitar and then another, I'm going to aim. And when we recorded, I recorded one. I remember exactly what I played. I tried to play with the same force and everything, but even so, it won't be identical. In other words, there were all the reasons in the world for the difference. Yes, two different plays, and the result is there. To show that the difference is small, man.
Yeah, and another thing like dynamics, right? That you're playing and all. The region where you play makes...
Yeah, right.
All of that. For example, if you record a guitar playing with the pick, whether it's over the pick up there, closer to the neck, or closer to the bridge, it's a totally different sound. So that can also happen in tests, right? And that's what we did. We always tried There, the pick attack on just one region on both guitars, right? To avoid having that difference as well. More. But that's it. The issue of guitar tone, for me, what really makes a difference, what brings you a big difference and is unanimous, everyone who comes here, is the pickup. The pickup, when you change it, you have a big difference. Let's say someone might hear a slight difference, that this one is a frequency, the other. It seems like I heard a little more brightness. Man, but overall, it's not that change where you say, wow, like when we explain the pickup here, there's a big difference in sound.
I'll explain this here, folks. Focus on me here, Mitch, please. When you explain here, with this knob here, this pickup here becomes a single, that's it. You turn off a coil then. The sound is completely different. Exactly. Then you see, right? Man, then you have a completely different perception of the sound. Here you change, right? And you feel that with each change of the three positions here that you have completely different sounds. One of the others, right? We still have here what we always talk about, the controls, the knobs. Here you control the tone, you control the volume here. So like, man, there's so much that we will put in front of the wood in the final influence of the sound, right, man? For sure. Which really is a paradigm. I really mean paradigm, folks, because here's the thing. If you have confidence that the influence of the wood on the final tone of the instrument, right? Because wood has tone. Yes, this wood has a different tone from that one. But since we are not extracting the sound from the wood, but rather through the cover, the influence, as we just mentioned here, is very negligible. Why is this a paradigm shift? Man, because now we know that wood has an importance that is different from what was previously said. It's not an influence on bass or treble. Oh, this one will have a more open sound. It's much more an aesthetic issue about the stability of the instrument.
For sure. That's where I place more consideration. Regarding the woods. Cutting issue, these cuts that were made on the neck, right, of the guitars are all radial, it provides more mechanical resistance, stability in the neck. Regarding the bodies here, also drying, right, also regarding the neck, drying, cutting, you understand. Then, in the construction, the gluing of these woods, you understand. And in the end, what do we analyze more? That you will give more, I can say, we'll care more about regarding the wood. Its stability, aesthetics. You see that they are figured necks, they are beautiful, or very nice grains. I don't think about tone, not about so much so that I've already made guitars. I have 21 types of wood that I've already built. The guitars all sounded very good. I chose the wood cut well. The drying, since I work with reclaimed wood, that's interesting too. I work with reclaimed wood, so a natural drying, it's not. So this also brings the issue of more. So I more like judge the wood in terms of stability and aesthetics.